I just moved to Manhattan and was hunting for work when a buddy suggested Grubhub. It was an easy gig with decent pay and a flexible schedule, so I figured why not. Most shifts were totally routine. I only had to grab food, drop it off, and pocket the tips. It was a Saturday night when that one order for apartment 12A popped up. The building was this crusty old complex. It looked exactly like something out of the Friends TV show. I had to drop off some Chinese takeout from a spot downtown. The customer requested a silent delivery. The instructions were super specific. Doors unlocked. Just leave the food on the table inside. Don't knock. It was definitely a bit weird, but honestly, not the craziest thing I'd seen. Some people just get really touchy about noise, especially late at night. I rolled up around 11:30. The front door was propped open with a brick. Half the lights in the hall were out, and the elevator was busted. I ended up hoofing it up the stairs to the 3rd floor. The hallway smelled like mildew and rot, which made my throat tighten. I found 12A and checked the door. It was cracked open about 2 inches, exactly like the instructions said. I knocked lightly anyway, out of habit, but when I didn't get a response, I pushed the door open wider and called out that I had a delivery. The apartment was dark except for the flickering light from a television playing nothing but static. The smell was stronger inside, thick enough that I had to breathe through my mouth. I could see a small table just inside the door. I put the food down quickly, trying not to look too far into the apartment, but I couldn't help noticing the photographs on the wall. There were a dozen family pictures in cheap frames, and every single face had been scratched out. I backed toward the door, suddenly desperate to leave when a female voice whispered from deeper in the apartment. "Please don't go." It sounded weak in pain, as if she was hurt and needed help. I froze in the doorway, asked if someone was there, if they were okay, but they didn't answer. Each passing second made me uneasy. I felt eyes on me that made my skin crawl. Figuring I might have imagined it, I pulled the door closed behind me and walked quickly back to the stairs. All this time, my heart was pounding. Just as I reached the car, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered. A guy started shouting at me, asking why I hadn't delivered his food. He said he'd been waiting for over 20 minutes. I told him I just left it inside his apartment like he requested. He said that was impossible. He'd been sitting right by the door the whole time. Nobody had knocked. I checked the app, confused. The delivery address showed apartment 16A, not 12A. My stomach dropped. I'd gone to the wrong apartment. The guy on the phone was still yelling. I told him I made a mistake, that I'd go back and get his food to the right place. But when I hung up, I just couldn't bring myself to turn around and go upstairs. There was something about that apartment that made me uneasy. Eventually, I marked the order as delivered and hauled it out of there. I knew my rating would take a hit, but I didn't care. The next morning, I was having breakfast when a news alert popped up on my phone. There was a huge police investigation going on in that same housing area where I went that night. A woman was found dead in 12A. My mouth dried up. I tapped the article, and my heart sank. It was an elderly lady who lived by herself. Apparently, a neighbor called it in because of the smell. The medical examiner figured she'd been gone for at least 10 days. My stomach flipped. I couldn't finish the article. How could anyone have been talking inside that apartment if the lady who lived there had been dead for a solid week? But I knew I had heard her. 2 days later, the investigation team rang me up. They'd found my name and number from the delivery app records, that I'd been one of the last people to enter the apartment before the body was discovered. I explained what happened, how I'd gone to the wrong apartment by mistake. He asked if I'd seen anything unusual. I told him about the scratched photographs and the voice I'd heard. There was a long pause. He called in a laptop and showed me security footage from the building's hallway camera. The timestamp showed 11:34 p.m. right when I'd made the delivery. The footage was pretty low res and dark, but I could definitely make out my own silhouette walking down the hallway. I saw myself stop at 12A and nudge the door open, getting in before I backed out and left. The detective let it play for another 30 seconds after I walked out of frame. What I saw next made my blood run cold. The door opened slowly, and this tall, skinny dude literally crawled out. He was moving on his hands and knees like an animal. I could tell he was wearing dark clothes and his back was to the camera. He stopped and turned his head towards the stairs. Maybe he was watching me leave or listening to my fading footsteps. And then he crawled back in, closing the door slowly. The detective stopped the video and asked if I'd seen anyone. I told him the place looked totally empty, except for that whisper I heard. He said the woman had been murdered for maybe 10 or 12 days before I showed up. The reports claimed her body had been repositioned multiple times over several days, like the killer had been living with the corpse. The detective figured it was a squatter who killed her and was using the apartment as a place to hide out. So when I walked in with the Chinese food, he was definitely there, hiding in the bedroom or maybe the bathroom. The investigation is underway, and the guy is at large. The camera footage is too blurry to get a face. I quit Grubhub the very next day. I couldn't handle it anymore. Every dark hall, weird instruction, and unlocked door makes me uneasy. The detective said I made a smart choice walking out, and that if I had gone looking for the person who spoke, I probably wouldn't have walked out of there alive. But honestly, I don't feel lucky or smart about any of it when I'm lying in bed every night. I keep running it over in my head, and I still can't figure out if it was the killer talking or if it was the dead woman.